The House comes to questions for oral answer. Question number 1, in the name of David Bennett.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Economic Development. What reports has he received on job growth in the New Zealand economy?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, yesterday the Household Labour Force Survey for the September quarter was released. It shows steady job growth over the quarter, 18,000 more people in employment than 3 months ago and 72,000 more than 12 months ago. New Zealand's unemployment rate is now down to 5.4%. That's the lowest unemployment rate since March 2009. Even with more Kiwis voting with their feet and staying home, we're matching the influx of new people with more jobs. A growing economy is getting more New Zealanders into work, and we're going to keep focusing on creating the conditions for the economy to grow through our consistent macroeconomic policies and the government's business growth agenda.
Supplementary question.
Order. Supplementary question, David Bennett.
How many new jobs have been created in recent years compared with previous forecasts, and how do the latest average wage increases compare with cost of living changes?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, as some members of the House will recall, in Budget 2011, Treasury forecast 171,000 jobs to be added to the economy by mid-2015. The latest Household Labour Force survey confirms there has been 159,000 new jobs created since Budget 2011. That's actually 12,000 jobs ahead of Treasury's projections, which is great for New Zealand. In terms of average wage increases, the quarterly employment survey released yesterday, it's the official measure of wage movements, shows average hourly wages rose 2.3% over the last year. That's 2.3% over the last year. It also shows average weekly wages grow about 1.8% compared to inflation of 1%. So on average, New Zealanders are receiving wage rises ahead of the cost of living, which is helping them get ahead.
Supplementary question. Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, David Bennett.
How does the employment picture vary across New Zealand?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, what is really pleasing about the data released yesterday is that in the year to September, unemployment is down in all regions but one. However, there are some interesting regional variations. For example, of the 72,000 more people in employment across New Zealand in the last year, 41,000 of them, over half, are in the South Island. And in fact, the North Island's unemployment rate is significantly higher than the South Island rate. North Island at 6.2% and South Island down 1% to 3.4%. And it's not just the Christchurch rebuild. I'm pleased to advise some of the members opposite who are concerned about a particular region that unemployment in Otago continues to be in the 3.8%, down 1% from a year ago. And in Southland it's 3.3%, down from 5.4% a year ago.
Supplementary question.
Order. Supplementary question, David Bennett.
What other reports has he seen on unemployment?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, a couple of reports. This afternoon, Australia released their unemployment data, Mr Speaker. It shows an unemployment rate of 6.2% across the Tasman as compared to 5.4% in this country, Mr Speaker. Our comparative strong economic performance and, as a result, emerging skill shortages is one of the reasons why we are planning a series of job fairs across a number of key Australian cities to attract Kiwis back and also skilled Aussies to support New Zealand's growing economy.
Order. Could the Minister please resume his seat? Point of order from the right honourable.
No ministerial responsibility in this House for a report out of Australia.
Order. The member will resume. The member will resume his seat. The question was what are the reports, and the Minister has every right to address that in his capacity as Minister.
Mr Speaker, I've also seen a second report from a new generation commentator with strong links to the Wellington Beltway who said, and I quote, "While it is good news that unemployment overall has fallen, that only benefits those lucky enough to find jobs." Mr Speaker, let's think about that for a minute.
Order, just
I think it's a reasonably self-evident point, but I think it's a very insightful comment from Mr Robertson.
Supplementary question, Dr David Clark.
6 years on, to the Minister, 6 years on, how long does he think it will take unemployment to fall from 5.4% now to the 4.5% he inherited from Labor?
Good question.
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, I thank the member for drawing attention to what we had to deal with that we inherited from Labor, including a domestic recession ahead of the global financial crisis, which of course arrived. Dr Clark might have missed it. He also may have missed the impact of the Canterbury earthquakes on our second largest city, Mr Speaker. My understanding is that Treasury expects unemployment to be below around 4.4% at the end of the current forecast period. And of course we'll be working hard to get it below that, and it's one of the lowest rates of unemployment in the OECD today.
Supplementary question, Dr David Clark.
Well, given that answer, is he sticking to his target of reducing unemployment below 4% by 2025, 14 years after the earthquake and 14 years after the end of the global financial crisis, or does he think it's time to be a little more ambitious?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, certainly I as Minister have no target that the member has described. I'd be interested to see it. I have a sneaking suspicion he's talking about an ongoing MB target. He can feel free to tell us a bit more about it if he'd like.
Question number 2.